People who were on reality family shows as kids, like Super Nanny, Wife Swap, and so on. How much of it was real and how much of it was fiction? Set up and for drama. Did anything change? I was on Wife Swap when I was 10 years old. My family had to switch with a farming family, and we were supposed to be the city family, even though my family and I lived in the suburbs. There were plenty of quotes taken out of context, as you'd expect. They also incited plenty of drama. I was framed as addicted to video games, so they took my Xbox and Game Boy Color for the week. A few days in, one of the crew members came in with my Game Boy and said, "Look, I found this," and handed it to me. It shouldn't be surprising that they sent the woman staying in our house to my room to catch me in the act. To be honest, not much has really changed in my life, except getting Snapchats of my 10-year-old face when my friends catch the reruns. I worked with a junk removal company for an episode of Hoarders, and it was actually 99% real. The only thing that they would set up a couple times was if they opened a box and found something interesting off camera, they would reopen it on camera and act like they just found it. A classmate of mine was on Country's Next Top Model. Before getting into the show, she was asked what kind of hair she would never want to get, so that the producers know about it and not make her have it during the makeover episode. My classmate had long blonde hair, which she really loved, so she said she doesn't want her hair cut off, and that she also hated strange, unnatural colors. Think blue or pink. Fast forward to the makeover episode. The hairstyling team comes in and finds her hair unfitting for a model, so she needs to get a makeover, and guess what? Her makeover obviously consists of a pixie cut and green hair to make her look like a punk fairy. My classmate cried through the entire process, so I guess the producers got the drama they wanted out of this. That's disgusting. My parents were dinner guests in an episode of Nanny 911, and they said literally everything was staged. I don't remember all of the details, but they said the directors had a code word that they would say to the kids when they were supposed to start acting all crazy. And then once the scene was done, the kids would be perfectly normal. My ex's brother was on an old MTV show called Room Raiders. It's a show where a boy or girl gets to snoop around in 3 potential partners' rooms to see if they like based on their possessions in the room. It's a terrible concept. The young lady looking around the room had 0 personality, and all the interesting or embarrassing things that were found were planted. I mean, come on. Who the frick has a tiny comb for their pubes as a teenager?
Are you telling me you don't have one? We all had one as kids.
My friend's parents were on World's Strictest Parents. They came to my house on the 4th of July, and when they showed our house on TV, it was a huge mansion rather than our actual house. The camera crew also told the visiting bad kids to steal alcohol from our house. Isn't that illegal, technically? That's supplying kids with alcohol on a technical level. I knew a girl who was on Tiny Home's show with her mom. She said they had already bought the tiny home, and the show set things up like they were looking at a bunch of others and picked that specific one. Sounds like your normal run-of-the-mill UK show. There was a family in our neighborhood who was on a show here in Germany. One day, when accompanied by the camera crew, one of the daughters suddenly threw a screaming fit in public, which was totally unusual for her. When the mom was asked later what the frick happened, she said, "For a tantrum, you get $200 extra." Eh. A girl I went to school with was on My Super Sweet 16. She was always quiet but well liked, and the kids on that show were usually monsters, so we were curious how the episode would paint her. There was one scene where she was checking in on a vendor, and they said something might not be finished in time for the party, and she didn't have a meltdown or anything, but she said something dramatic like, "Oh no, that's gonna ruin my whole birthday party." After the episode aired, her friends who were with her said that they did a couple of takes because her first reaction was like,
"Oh, that sucks. Thanks for letting me know."
oh, that's glorious. One of my neighbors was on a house disaster reno show, and it was a mixed bag. I think the crew hired by the show actually did very competent structural renovation and repair type work, but the designer had super niche tastes, so the family ended up repainting everything and pitching all of the decorationary aspects to get the house ready for resale, after having to act super happy for the cameras. I was on the dating show, Eliminate. It was set up to the point that the producers did their best to create drama by pushing questions like, "Insert name here was really acting like an ass that last round. Tell us about what an ass insert name is here." I felt the final show edits were pretty accurate to the real life events, though. I was on a dog training TV show when I was about 8. The idea was the dog trainer came in, helped our family integrate our new puppy into our household, to give us training tips, advice, and so on. The whole thing was basically bogus. The trainer came to our house for maybe 30 minutes tops and gave us extremely basic advice. The producers also told us we had to get changed and pretend he was visiting us 3 months later after he gave us the advice and how it made our life better. Yada yada yada. It's so dumb because our puppy was clearly the same age in the before and the 3 months after shot, and my family aren't actors, so our reactions were really fake. One of the producers also made me say, "I love you," insert dog's name, while hugging him for about 6 takes. I mean, hugging your dog's always wonderful, but this one might be I worked with 2 people who were on Teen Mom. Grandmother and granddaughter. Obviously, the granddaughter was the teen mom. They told me the directors would intentionally set up stuff that would cause drama, and then start filming. For example, the directors had them go out to lunch and told the grandmother something she didn't know yet, and filmed their argument for drama, knowing she would get upset that the granddaughter hadn't told her before, even though she was planning to. It was really dumb, unnecessary drama for TV, but apparently the baby got tons of scholarships and support from the show, which is why they did it in the first place, so they said it was worth it. My dad was asked to be on an episode of TLC's My Strange Addiction. He runs kind of a niche business, and they were like, "Hey, you're addicted to this, right?" And he's like, no. And they're like, "Well, can you pretend to be addicted to this, and you can just be on the show?" And he was like,
No.
A friend of mine's Mustang was in South Beach Tow. The business is a legitimate towing business. One of the directors came up to him and told him that his car was being towed for some infraction. It was the friend's fault entirely, so the towing business was in the right. But before the car would be towed, he was told that if he agreed to be in a scene, because his car looked expensive and unique, they'll have everything set up for his grand entrance. And if he acted all surprised and made a spat and go crazy, they'll give him back the car at the pound. He didn't agree to it because he didn't want his face shown on TV, and the director was cool with it, but he did allow the car to be in the scene. Had he refused everything, they would have just towed the car and moved on. Well, on the flip switch, 2 actors came out of nowhere, a couple, and they filmed the scene. It was crazy overblown and terribly acted as you'd expect for a show like this. You had these 2 random people freaking out about a Mustang being towed that wasn't really theirs. He thought the whole thing was hilarious. Thankfully, he was so chill about the entire thing, and with the crew and actors in general, that even though he didn't agree to be in the scene, they just gave him his car back once everything was over. He calls it a win to this day. When I was in Korea, they wanted to film me, some random white guy eating their traditional foods. They filmed my reaction, but I really liked the food a lot. They had me retake it and pretend it was too spicy and gross, so they could show that foreigners couldn't handle it. Ah, that's dumb! MTV's Maid came to our high school to turn 2 girls into each other. One was portrayed as this artsy starlet who did musicals and show choir, and the other was portrayed as this sporty, fit, athletic girl. The reality was, both girls were into sports and the performing arts. I used to know somebody whose neighbor actually was a participant on Extreme Makeover. There was no such thing as a free house. Foreclosures are all too common. The taxes were shady, and there were lawsuits and legal action. A little off topic, but similar. Jupiter Entertainment reenacts true stories for shows like My Man, Vengeance, Fatal Attraction, Homicide Hunters, and so on. Much of the acting is filmed with no sound because the voiceover will be explaining the story. They have filmed many shows at my house. I usually hide in a corner of the kitchen and watch them film. I swear, it's honestly more entertaining than the shows themselves. One scene had 2 men arguing over a woman. They really got into it, with sweat and spittle flying. Then the woman walks down my hallway and confronts them. It's a big, scary, screaming fight. Thing is, you don't know what they're really saying. Let me tell you, we were all nearly crying with laughter. It sounded something like this. What do you think you're doing with my woman? What do you mean you're a woman? I came here to eat some pizza. Well, I'll stuff this pizza up your...
Insert naughty word here.
And you'll like it. I hate pizza, and you can't make me. Besides, that woman is preggers with my baby, and we're gonna name it Pizza. You can't do that, because my name is Pizza, you stupid pretty boy. I know I'm pretty. Do you want to go to pizza when this is over? The woman walks up. What the hell is the matter with you guys? My poor pizza baby has his feelings hurt because you don't like it. That baby's father is Taco Bell and not me. You're gonna have a burrito, not a pizza. Ah, you're so mean. Can we have a salad for dinner, Rick? Oh, wait, how about Poke Bowl? There's a great place just a couple minutes from here. I think it's a great idea because I hate pizza! And so on. And on that note of absolutely annihilating my vocal cords, I think I'm going to end today's video. It's a nice rainy night, and I always love getting my sleep in on rainy nights. I will see you all next time. Hasta la pasta.